Hey everybody, it's Mike, and welcome to Chip Damage. Now, I love the original Xbox. In fact, when shopping for the 6th generation of games, if there's a PS2 port, a GameCube port, and an Xbox port, I usually prefer and try to go for the Xbox port just because the Xbox had a little bit more juice under the hood and that version ends up looking or playing a little bit better. And that combined with a bunch of good exclusives made the Xbox stand out as a console. Most people know it as the Halo box, but in fact had quite a few other good exclusives that are a bit lesser known, as well as ports with some exclusive content not found anywhere else. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. So let's jump right into it with some Japanese-made exclusives. Now, Microsoft has never had any luck getting the Xbox popular in Japan, but that's not for a lack of trying. And that brings us to our very first game, one of the more well-known exclusives out of Japan for the Xbox, that is Otogi Myth of Demons. This is a personal favorite of mine. This is a From Software title, pre-Demon Souls, but you can definitely sense the DNA in there, as in it is a very difficult game. However, this game is probably best well known for its destructible environments. You play as Raiko, a demon slayer, kind of your third-person character action game, killing demons and monsters with spells and a variety of weapons. I believe it's 33 different weapons, and every hit that you do can send enemies flying into the environment, blowing through rocks and trees and leaving a permanent indent in the environment. Really impressive, really fun game, only on the Xbox, never been ported, definitely worth checking out if you have the system. Which brings us to its sequel that came out a few years later. Debatably better or worse, in my mind, it's equally as good. Instead of one playable character in this game, you have 6 at the expense of each character only having 3 weapons instead of the 33 found in the original. But really gorgeous game, even tighter gameplay. There is a lot of slowdown, but there are sections of this game that rival Musos in the quantity of enemies that you face, so that slowdown actually can come in handy in precisely attacking your foes. Yet again, highly recommended. If you have an Xbox, you're not going to find this game anywhere else, so I suggest picking this one up. Neither of these games are super valuable, but they are getting slightly harder to find because people who buy them keep them. And sticking with the From Software train here is probably my rarest and most valuable Xbox game. That is Metal Wolf Chaos on the original Xbox. Wrap your mind around this. This is a Japanese exclusive. This was not legally made in the US. Japanese exclusive Xbox game that came out late in the console's life, dubbed in English, and only released in Japan. Yeah, this did not sell well, but it is a cult classic. Really hard to come by. It was luckily re-released in 2019, I believe, for the PS4 and Xbox One. This is a wacky game where you play as the President of the United States in a mech, fighting the Vice President of the United States in his mech for domination of the United States. It's wacky, it's fun. For a while it was only found on Xbox if you imported it and had a modded Xbox. But now that it's easier to play on the PS4 and Xbox One, it's worth the $20 that it's valued on there. I would definitely suggest checking that one out. All right. Sticking with Japanese exclusives, but moving on to a Sega title, that's Gun Valkyrie. This is also in the vein of a third-person action game, but with more shooting mechanics. You play as 2 playable characters, both equipped with a heavy gun and a jetpack, more of like a jump jet, fighting giant insects. Very arcadey, fun, difficult. I believe this game began its life as a Dreamcast title, but it's never been ported anywhere else. It's a solid game. It's not going to blow your brain, but if you're looking for some fun, shooty, fly action, this is where you want to go. So definitely take a look at that. Yet again, not super rare, but you can't find it anywhere but on the original Xbox. All right, moving over to SNK, we got a bizarre release here. That is the King of Fighters Neowave. This is, at least in the United States, a Xbox exclusive, and this is a weird chopped up version of King of Fighters 2002, which was released on other consoles as well as the Xbox, but it runs on the Atomisware engine as opposed to the Neo Geo hardware, so it has different backgrounds and it runs a little differently. It's a bizarre little game, but it's, at least in the United States, not on any other console, so it's definitely worth checking out for any King of Fighters fans. Not rare. You do get to fight a young Geese Howard at the very end of the game, which you don't usually see too often. So if just for the novelty of seeing young Geese Howard with the flowing blonde locks, definitely worth checking out. All right, and then one more from SNK, another North American Xbox exclusive, that is Samurai Showdown 5. This is not Samurai Showdown Special, the enhanced version that came out later, but there are some bells and whistles. I believe there are 2 additional playable characters in this version of the game, and as far as the United States, for a while this was the only way to play Samurai Showdown 5. It was later released in a PS2 compilation in 2009 on the PlayStation 2, so way after this 2005 release. And this was online, so this was the only way to play this game online for quite a while. And I believe until the recent release of the Samurai Showdown Collection on the PS4 and Xbox One, was the only way to play Samurai Showdown 5 online. So yet again, for any SNK fan, Samurai Showdown fan, this is one worth checking out. Now, we're moving on to games that were on other consoles, but had exclusive features only found on the Xbox, and one of the most infamous cases of this is with Genma Onimusha. Now, Onimusha has been ported from the PS2 to the PS4 recently, but that new PS4 version is lacking the enhanced features found in Genma Onimusha. You can find lots of videos that break down in more detail what those changes are, but generally it's a harder version with more enemies that looks slightly better and has a different pickup system, as in when you defeat an enemy, there are different types of energy orbs you can pick up. There's a whole new type in this that gives Samanosuke different power-ups. It's generally seen as a harder version. I wouldn't necessarily say better from my experience, but it's definitely different, and it would have been nice to have the option to switch between the PlayStation 2 and Xbox versions in that new release, but it's not the case, and the only way to play this version of this classic game is on the original Xbox. Moving on, we have one not too many know about in terms of exclusive features, is Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. Personal favorite of mine. These games are fantastic. This and its sequel, Save the Earth, are some of my favorite games to just plug in and play with 3 other guys for a night of fun. However, this is more known as a GameCube title. However, it was later released on the Xbox and had an exclusive character, Kiryu, or Mechagodzilla 3, not found on the other version. So if you're going to hunt down a version of Godzilla Destroy All Monsters and you have the option between the Xbox and GameCube version, you want that character, pick up the Xbox version. And moving on to one of my favorite games of all time, Capcom vs. SNK EO. So this was on PlayStation 2 and GameCube as well. However, this version is special. The EO in the title stands for Easy Operation. That was a option added in the GameCube and Xbox version. It's a control scheme that allows you to execute special moves very, very easily. But if memory serves, the GameCube version forced that easy operation system on you, while the Xbox version allowed you to switch between the original gameplay style as well as the easy operation style. There were also some very minor balance tweaks, as this did come out slightly later after the PlayStation 2 version. However, there is a sound glitch in this game where the music will cut out at certain times, especially if you're finishing a round with a super. There was a patch for this, yes, a patch for the original Xbox version if you were connected to Xbox Live. But since the original Xbox is unable to connect to the internet, if you don't have that patch on that hard drive, you can't get it anymore. Regardless of that small musical glitch, this is a fantastic version of the game. I consider it the most complete version to play. So if you can find this, all versions of this game are slightly hard to find, slightly expensive. I do highly recommend it. If you haven't played it, you gotta play it. It's a classic. Moving on to a very well-known game, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Not the most recent EA release, of course. This is the 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is usually considered to be the best in the series. Now, this was also released on other consoles of the 6th gen. However, there was exclusive downloadable content released for the Xbox version not many people know about. They were 2 playable heroes, the Jedi and Sith characters of Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress, as well as 4 stages from the original Star Wars Battlefront that were brought over to Star Wars Battlefront 2 and kind of massaged into the game to play in its new style and its new mechanics. That was, for a while, unavailable after the original Xbox servers went down. If you didn't have them saved on the hard drive, they were gone. But with the Xbox One X backwards compatibility, they actually patched in that DLC from this version into the game. So if you have a copy of this game and you pop it into your Xbox One X or Xbox Series X, you are getting that DLC for free. I think that's fantastic. Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress are very beloved characters. It's cool you get to play as them, plus you have some extra maps, making this already great game even bigger and better. So, moving on, back over to SNK, we have a version of Metal Slug 3, pretty beloved game in the Metal Slug series. Now, you can find Metal Slug 3 downloadable on the PS4. You can find versions of this game digitally on a lot of storefronts. However, the Xbox version had exclusive content, had 2 minigame modes that you can't find anywhere else. Even the downloadable version of Metal Slug 3 on the Xbox 360 does not have the content of the OG Xbox version. So if you want the most complete version of Metal Slug 3, you can hunt this one down and get that. So, all right, on to the next, a favorite of mine and many, many the world over, Tony Hawk 2X. So, with the recent release of the Tony Hawk collection on PS4 and Xbox One with Tony Hawk 1 and 2, that is a fantastic collection. However, it's not exactly complete because exclusive to the Xbox, and I believe this was a launch title for the Xbox, is Tony Hawk 2X. Now, what this is a collection of all 24 levels of Tony Hawk 1 and 2 on one disc, plus 5 bonus levels. Now, no collection, to my knowledge, has those 5 bonus levels. They are exclusive to this version. And of course, a big deal for this game back in the day was the Xbox had custom soundtracks. You could load up your own music, so you weren't always listening to Power Man 5000. Though those songs are fantastic on the other versions, you can mix it up even more with Tony Hawk 2X. Very cheap, not highly sought after. However, if you want the definitive Tony Hawk 1 and 2 experience on the last gen systems, this is the one to find. All right, yet again, another beloved title. Maybe not so much. Maybe Tom hasn't been so kind to this one, but Spider-Man 2002, based on the original movie. This game was also released on PS2 and GameCube. However, the Xbox version had a bizarre add-on, exclusive content of 2 levels featuring Kraven the Hunter, kind of popped in the middle of the game that Norman Osborn hired Kraven to go after Peter. Not much, but it is something that you get at a level and a boss fight not found in any other version, and they are quite difficult. I would say that they may be the most difficult levels in the game. Kraven has a rifle on you throughout the level, hunting you down, and 1 or 2 shots of that rifle, you're gone. So if you want the most complete version of this game, the Xbox One is the way to go as the trend continues. Moving on to the cult classic, Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 released on the PS2 about a small while later, I believe a year later. It was released on the Xbox as a Restless Dreams version. There were new features in this, new endings, different lighting engine, as well as a few other bells and whistles. However, this version of the game was later ported back to the PS2 as a Platinum Hits title called Silent Hill 2 Restless Dreams as well. That version is quite expensive to find on the PlayStation 2, and it doesn't look quite as good, in my opinion, from what I've seen, as the Xbox version. I still believe this is the best way to play. I believe there are some cutscene differences in terms of smoothness, where the PS2 version cutscenes actually run a little bit smoother than the Xbox version. But as far as content and overall playability, I would go with the Xbox version. Check it out. And just as a note before I move on to my next game, which I'll call as Silent Hill 4, this is always something that's perplexed me. Silent Hill 2 and 4 are released on the Xbox, but not 3. 3 was a PS2 exclusive. So PS2 got 2, 3, and 4, and Xbox got 2 and 4. Don't know why there's that little lapse. You don't see that too often. The system was not popular in Japan, so I could see why they would stop at 2 and not do 3 and 4. But no, they just said, skip, we'll do the one after the next one, and went on to Silent Hill 4. Speaking of which, great version of the game. Runs and looks a little better than the PS2 version. No exclusive content this time, but it is a slightly brighter, better looking version that I do suggest. All right. Sticking with our horror theme, we're going to go over to Fatal Frame 1 and 2. We'll cover at once. Now, these are more well known as cult PS2 horror games. However, the better versions are on Xbox. These add quite a bit. Different endings, different enemies, different modes, slightly better color palette. These are somewhat hard to find. I'd say they are still slightly cheaper than their PS2 variants, but overall, these are the flat out superior versions of these games. There's nothing wrong with those PS2 versions, but if you want the complete Fatal Frame 1 and 2, you got to get them on Xbox. And that kind of sums up some of the odder, rare, less talked about exclusives on the original Xbox. I truly do love this system and these collection of games. I had a PS2 and Xbox in their prime, as it were. But like I said, if there were ports of games on both, always lean towards the Xbox. As well as some, as we would call them today, console exclusives. The Xbox had so much more power than its contemporaries and a strong relationship with Microsoft that some PC games were ported to the Xbox, and I'll quickly go over those now. They were, of course, not as good as some high-end PCs at the time, but hey, if you had a console and not a PC, these were the best and only and best way to play them, and they were solid options. So real quick, Doom 3, slightly different version on the original Xbox, but worth playing. Some sections were cut. It was more of a jigsaw puzzle. They removed some parts, connected them to others. Solid version. Never had an issue playing it. So if you want some Doom 3 on the consoles and it's 2005, this was your only option. Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, this is how I was introduced to the Elder Scrolls series. This was a big deal on Xbox. If anybody remembers the old Toonami review of this game, that's what got me into Elder Scrolls. This was not found on consoles. It was kind of a miracle that it could be played on consoles. You're going to get 2-minute loading times if you played on the original hardware, but this is still a fantastic game. This is still my favorite Elder Scrolls game. If you have an Xbox One, this is backwards compatible. The loading times are lightning quick. I do suggest playing Elder Scrolls 3 if you don't feel like playing it on PC. And the oft-forgotten Half-Life 2 version or the Xbox version of Half-Life 2. Not the best version compared to PC, has bouts of slowdown, but at the time in 2004, 2005, great game nonetheless. A little bit of slowdown isn't going to stop a classic like this. And very last, the Star Wars Jedi Knight games, Jedi Knight 2 Outcast, as well as Jedi Knight 3 Jedi Academy, which I have here. Mostly known as PC games. I believe Jedi 2 is also ported to GameCube later on, but as I grew up with them, I played them on Xbox, had no issues. Slight slowdown, as with many of these PC ports, but still a great game and worth checking out. And that concludes my talk on the original Xbox. I still have other exclusives that I'd love to talk to at another time, but I believe those exclusives are big enough to warrant their own video. And I just wanted to go over some of the games that you may have missed, or versions you're like, hey, I have the PS2 version, love that game, want to give it another go, but I want a slightly different experience. Try it out on the Xbox. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.